Rush hour at La Belle Vie. I'm rushing a tray of cocktails when a businessman suddenly jerks his chair back. His elbow slams into my arm. Red wine collapses onto the pristine white tablecloth, splashing across the guest's expensive suit. The glass falls, shattering into sharp shards under the table. I am frantically apologizing, grabbing a napkin to blot the stain when Harlan, the arrogant manager, storms over. As the owner's brother-in-law, Harlan grants himself the power of life and death. He clamps his hand onto my arm, jerking me away from the table, and roars before the entire dining room, "You stupid black bitch! Your kind doesn't belong here. Go back to the slums where you belong." His palm cracked across my face in a sharp slap that echoed off the crystal chandeliers, my cheek exploding in heat as blood trickled from my split lip, the shock freezing me in place while gasps rippled through the crowd. Welcome to Melina's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right? Now, I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. I stood there, the humiliation crashing over me like a wave, feeling every stare drill into me, as if I was the one who'd done something criminal. My mind flashing back to all the crap I'd swallowed just to keep this gig going. A woman at a nearby table whipped out her phone, starting to film the whole thing. Her voice rising as she said, "This is assault. I'm calling the police right now." But Mr. Harlan spun on her, his voice booming with that untouchable edge. "Put that away or you're out of here too. This is my restaurant, and if you don't like it, leave." With the burly security guard standing behind him, the lead host, Jake, hurried over looking scared stiff, whispering to her about not making a scene or risking the owner's wrath, and she hesitated, lowering her phone while still secretly recording. Her face set in determination as she saved the footage, while the other guests shifted uncomfortably, murmuring but not pushing back, the fear in the air thick, because no one wanted to tangle with the family ties that protected him. My name is Aisha Thompson. I'm 25 years old, and for the last 6 months, I'd been pulling double shifts here at La Belle Vie to scrape together rent for my shoebox apartment downtown, proving to myself I could stand on my own 2 feet without dipping into my family's world. I'd hidden that my dad is the state governor because I didn't want handouts or special treatment. I wanted to earn my way, even if it meant dealing with the constant side-eye about my curls or how I didn't match the aesthetic, but this slap, this public teardown laced with straight-up racism. It ripped through that fragile setup, leaving me raw and questioning if independence was worth this kind of degradation. Mr. Harlan jabbed a finger at the spill, snarling, "Clean this crap up now, or you're fired on the spot." I nodded like a robot, dropping to my knees to gather the broken glass carefully with a towel. My hands trembling as tears stung my eyes, but I fought them back, not about to let him see me crack. The businessmen at the table fidgeted, one of them grumbling, "Come on, that's way out of line." But Mr. Harlan glared daggers, snapping, "She's under my watch. Butt out unless you want your bill comped the hard way." As I scooped the shards into a specialized sharps bin behind the bar, protocol we all followed to avoid lawsuits, the isolation hit me harder, like I was invisible except for the target on my back. Every scrub of the floor reminding me of the piled-up BS I'd ignored, the skipped breaks, the racial digs disguised as feedback, the way promotions went to everyone but folks like me. I'd picked this job to break free from my dad's shadow, to feel real and grounded, but now it felt like a dead-end trap, the emotional betrayal stinging as deep as the bruise blooming on my cheek. Unbeknownst to Mr. Harlan, who'd turned his back to bark orders at the kitchen staff, my dad had slipped in through the front door just in time to catch the whole nightmare. Governor Elias Thompson, blending in with a plain coat over his suit, had shown up to surprise me on my shift. He respected my space but wanted to check in. He stood in a blind spot near the host stand, his jaw tight, but instead of charging over, he pulled out his phone discreetly, holding it low with the screen dimmed to avoid detection, starting to record the scene while texting his chief of staff to loop in legal quietly, gathering evidence before making a move that could blow up publicly and complicate things for everyone. Mr. Harlan wheeled back around, his eyes narrowing at me as I finished wiping the tablecloth. "Speed it up, girl. You're killing the vibe with your sloppy ass." When I bit down on my response, grabbing the dirty linens to haul them to the back, but inside, The hurt twisted into something sharper, a quiet anger simmering beneath the powerlessness. Knowing this wasn't over but not ready to play my cards yet. In the kitchen, out of the diner's sight, Mr. Harlan cornered me by the sink, leaning in with that smug grin. This is what happens when we hire charity cases like you. Stained clothes, attitude problems. Customers expect perfection, not this mess. His jabs landed like extra slaps, amplifying the racial injustice I'd tried to push through, making the whole place feel like enemy territory now. Maria, my coworker on the line, edged over when he stepped away, her voice a whisper. Aisha, that was brutal. Your face is swelling. You all right? I touched the tender spot, whispering back, I'll survive. But deep down, the isolation clawed at me, the betrayal of a job turning toxic, mixing with the public shaming, leaving me aching for some kind of justice. The shift dragged on as I forced smiles for the next tables, those pitying looks from patrons only twisting the knife. Like I was some spectacle instead of a person. Mr. Harlan hovered nearby, adding under his breath as I passed, Hide that mark better. No one's here to see your drama queen act. The bruise wasn't just skin deep, it was a brand of everything wrong here. And with my dad out there quietly building a case, the first spark of hope flickered amid the pain, even as I kept my head down for the moment. I pushed through the swinging kitchen doors back into the dining room, my cheeks still throbbing from Mr. Harlan's slap, carrying a fresh tray of drinks for another table like nothing had happened, even though every step felt heavier under the weight of what he'd just done. The room had gone back to its low hum of conversations and clinking silverware, but I could feel the lingering stares from a few patrons, their eyes flicking away when I looked up, making the humiliation dig in deeper. I set the drinks down carefully at table 8, forcing a smile as the couple thanked me. But inside, the racial slur he'd thrown at me echoed like a bad loop, reminding me how I'd let so many little digs slide just to keep this paycheck coming. Mr. Harlan was back at the host stand, chatting with Jake like he owned the world, his laugh cutting through the air as if slapping an employee was just another Tuesday night. I glanced over and caught my dad's eye again. He was still in that blind spot near the entrance. His phone out low, but now he gave me a subtle nod, like he was saying to hang in there while he handled things his way. I nodded back barely, not wanting to draw attention, and headed to clear another table, my mind racing with the injustice of it all, how this man thought he could treat me like dirt because of his connections. As I stacked the plates, Mr. Harlan spotted me and marched over, his face twisting back into that angry scowl. Like the sight of me still working pissed him off even more. "What the hell are you doing back out here?" he hissed, keeping his voice low but sharp enough to make nearby tables quiet down again. "I told you to clean up and get it together, but clearly you can't even do that right. You're fired, effective immediately. Pack your crap and get out before I have security drag you." I froze with the plates in my hands, the words hitting like another blow, my stomach dropping as I realized he was really doing this in front of everyone. "Mr. Harlan, please," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady even though it cracked a little. "It was an accident." The customer bumped me. "I've been a good worker here, pulling doubles without complaints. Give me another chance." He snorted, crossing his arms, his eyes cold and full of that same contempt. "A good worker? You've been nothing but trouble since day one, spilling drinks, slowing down service, and now this mess. We don't need your kind dragging down the reputation of La Belle Vie. Hand over your apron and locker key right now, or I'll make sure you never work in this city again." The couple at table 8 looked over awkwardly, the man clearing his throat like he might say something, but Mr. Harlan shot him a glare that shut it down fast. I felt the powerlessness surge up, tears pricking my eyes again, but I blinked them away, not about to break in front of him. Maria peeked out from the kitchen door, her face worried, but she didn't come closer. Probably scared of losing her job too in this place where the owner's family called the shots. "Seriously?" I whispered, my voice shaking as I untied my apron slowly, handing it over with the key. "After all the overtime, the crap I've put up with from rude customers, you're firing me over one spill? This isn't fair." "Fair?" He laughed bitterly, snatching the items from me. "Life isn't fair, sweetheart. You should have thought about that before screwing up in my restaurant. Now get your ass out the door. Don't make me call the cops for trespassing." I stood there for a second, the isolation wrapping tighter, feeling like the whole room was judging me as a failure. The emotional betrayal of this job I'd fought for turning into a knife twist. My dad was still watching from the shadows, his expression furious but composed, texting quickly. I knew he was planting the seeds for something bigger, looping in his people without blowing his cover yet. I locked eyes with him one more time, and in that silent exchange, I felt a tiny spark of resolve ignite, the promise that this firing wasn't the end, just the start of pushing back. Mr. Harlan grabbed my elbow roughly, steering me toward the exit like I was some criminal, his grip tight enough to bruise. Move it, you're done here. And don't even think about bad-mouthing us. We've got lawyers who eat complaints for breakfast. I pulled away gently as we reached the door, my heart pounding with the mix of fear and anger, the racial undercurrent in his words making it all feel so much heavier. You'll regret this, I muttered under my breath, too quiet for him to hear, but loud enough in my own mind to plant that seed of retaliation deep. He shoved the door open, practically pushing me out into the cool night air, the sounds of the restaurant fading behind me as he held the door open while shoving me out. I stood on the sidewalk, my uniform still on, but feeling stripped bare. The reality of being jobless, hitting hard, no rent money, no stability, all because of one man's unchecked hate. But as I caught my breath, I glanced back through the window and saw my dad slipping toward a side table, still undercover. And I knew the conflict was just ramping up, that seed growing into something he wouldn't see coming. I stepped out onto the sidewalk for a second after Mr. Harlan shoved me toward the door, but he wasn't done yet. He burst through right after me, his face still flushed with that smug anger, grabbing my arm again in a vice grip that made me wince as he yanked me back toward the entrance, like I was some kind of thief. You think you can just walk away after that disaster? He snarled, his voice loud enough to turn heads from passers-by on the busy street. But we were still half in the doorway so the diners inside could hear every word. Lazy, entitled, always playing the victim card because you're black and think the world owes you something. Well, not here, not in my place. You've been nothing but a drain, showing up looking like you rolled out of bed, expecting handouts. I tried to pull my arm free, the pain shooting up from his fingers digging in, but he held tighter, dragging me a step farther into view of the restaurant's big windows where more customers were, craning their necks to watch the spectacle. Let go of me, I said through gritted teeth, my voice low but firm, not wanting to make more of a scene, even though my cheek was still burning from the slap, and now, this fresh ache in my arm. The humiliation piled on, feeling like everyone was seeing me as the problem, the troublemaker he was painting me as, and I could sense the racial edge in his words cutting deeper, making my stomach twist with that familiar injustice I'd tried so hard to ignore in this job. Mr. Harlan laughed, a harsh bark that drew even more attention. A couple at a sidewalk table nearby stopping their conversation to stare. Let go? You're lucky I'm not pressing charges for damaging customer property with your clumsiness. People like you come in here thinking you can half-ass it and get by on pity. Well, newsflash. The real world doesn't work that way. Get your crap from the locker and disappear, or I'll have Jake call the cops right now to escort you out like the trash you are. Inside, through the open door, I saw Maria hovering near the host stand, her eyes wide with worry, but she didn't say a word, probably terrified of ending up like me in this restaurant where the owner's brother-in-law ruled. With an iron fist, and complaints vanished into thin air. A few diners murmured to each other, one guy pulling out his phone like he might record, but Mr. Harlan noticed and bellowed over his shoulder, "Mind your own business in there. This is handled." The guy hesitated, then put his phone down, the fear of getting involved winning out. Just like with the woman earlier who was still at her table, glancing my way with a sympathetic but helpless look. My dad was still in his spot near the host stand, having edged a bit closer now, his body tense like he was ready to step in, but he held back, his eyes flicking between us as he assessed the whole mess. I knew he was thinking about the political fallout if he revealed himself too soon, how it could turn into a media circus and complicate his position, so he stayed put, continuing to text discreetly. I caught his gaze again, and in that moment the weight of my secret crashed down harder, clashing with the raw pain of this public dragging, making me feel even more trapped between who I was pretending to be and the injustice exploding in my face. "Mr. Harlan, this is assault. You can't just manhandle me like this," I said, my voice rising a notch despite myself. The emotional betrayal surging as I thought about all the extra shifts I'd covered, the times I'd stayed late to help without asking for overtime, only to get treated like dirt, He twisted my arm a little more, pulling me closer to his face, his breath hot and sour. Assault? You're the one who assaulted my business with your incompetence. Black girls like you always cry foul when you get called out. Go on, try telling that to the police. They'll laugh you out of the station. The words stung like salt in a wound, amplifying the powerlessness as a small crowd gathered outside now, some whispering, others just watching with that mix of curiosity and discomfort, but no one stepping up. I felt the isolation wrap around me tighter, like I was alone in this fight even with my dad so close. The hidden truth of his power making the moment even more agonizing because I couldn't just call it out without ruining everything I'd built for myself. Jake poked his head out the door, looking nervous. Boss, maybe we should take this inside. But Mr. Harlan waved him off. Stay out of it, Jake. This one's done causing trouble. I yanked harder this time, finally breaking his grip, stumbling back a step onto the sidewalk, rubbing my arm where red marks were already forming. You're going to pay for this, I muttered, loud enough for him to hear now, the fury bubbling up past the hurt, but I kept it controlled, not wanting to give him more ammo. He stepped forward, jabbing a finger at me, his voice booming for maximum effect. Pay? You'll be lucky if I don't sue you for the cleanup costs and lost business. Now get your locker stuff and beat it. Don't show your face here again, or it'll be worse. Maria slipped out quickly then, handing me my bag from the back without a word, her eyes apologetic as she whispered, I'm so sorry, Aisha. Text me later, before ducking back in under Mr. Harlan's glare. I slung the bag over my shoulder, the finality of it hitting me like a brick. No job, no income. Just the echo of his derogatory crap ringing in my ears, drawing even more stares from the diners inside who were now openly watching through the glass. The racial slurs and the rough handling pushed me closer to the edge, the pain of it all, the humiliation in front of strangers, the betrayal of a place I'd given so much to, making tears well up again, but I swallowed them, locking eyes with my dad one last time as he gave a subtle shake of his head, signaling to wait, to let this play out for the evidence. Mr. Harlan crossed his arms, standing in the doorway like a bouncer. What are you waiting for? Scram before I change my mind about the cops. I turned slowly, walking away down the sidewalk, each step feeling like defeat. But inside, the seed from before grew stronger, the outrage fueling a quiet promise that this higher level of crap he'd just thrown at me was only making the comeback sweeter. The streetlights flickered on as the evening deepened, and I could feel the weight of hidden eyes on me. My dad's, maybe that woman's from earlier, but for now the injustice burned hot, pushing me toward that breaking point where something had to give. I stumbled a few steps down the sidewalk after Mr. Harlan finally let go of my arm, the door to La Belle Vie slamming shut behind him with a finality that echoed in my chest, leaving me standing there in the cooling evening air with my bag slung over my shoulder and nothing else to my name. The street was buzzing with people heading to dinners or shows, but I felt like I was in a bubble, isolated from it all, the bruise on my cheek throbbing in time with the red marks blooming on my arm where he'd grabbed me. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, checking my bank app real quick, $247 left after rent, and now no job to refill it. The reality crashing down that I'd be scraping by on nothing until I found something else, all because of one spilled drink and a manager's hate. I leaned against the brick wall of the building next door, sliding down until I was sitting on the dirty pavement, my uniform still stained with wine from earlier, making me look even more like the trash he'd called me. Tears finally broke through then, hot and unstoppable, as I hugged my knees to my chest, sobbing quietly while a few passers-by glanced over but kept walking, no one stopping to ask if I was okay. The humiliation burned deep, thinking back to how I'd been dragged like that in front of customers, his words about me being lazy and entitled because I'm black ringing in my ears, making me feel small and worthless, like all the hard work I'd put in meant nothing in a world that saw me that way first. My phone buzzed in my hand, and I wiped my eyes to see a text from Maria. Aisha, I'm so sorry. He told us not to contact you or we're next. Be safe. That hit like a gut punch, cutting off my only work friend, leaving me truly alone in this mess. No one from the restaurant I could turn to now without risking their jobs too. I thought about calling my dad right then, but I held back, not wanting to drag him into my failure so soon. I'd chosen this independent life to prove I didn't need his help, and now here I was, jobless and broke on a sidewalk. the emotional weight of it all pressing down until I could barely breathe. A homeless guy shuffled by, pushing a cart, and he paused, looking at me with pity in his eyes. "Rough night, miss. Here's a tissue," he said, pulling a crumpled one from his pocket and holding it out. I took it, mumbling a thanks, but the kindness from a stranger only made the shame worse, highlighting how low I'd fallen in minutes, from waitress in an upscale spot to crying on the street like I had nowhere to go. I dabbed at my face, but the tears kept coming, my mind replaying the slap, the firing, the dragging, all laced with those racial digs that made it feel personal. Like he wasn't just mad about a spill, but about me existing in his space. I'd endured low pay, long hours, rude customers, all to build something on my own, away from my dad's world, but now it was gone, stripped away in public, leaving me with nothing but this hollow ache of betrayal from a job I'd given everything to. My phone buzzed again, this time an email notification from the restaurant's HR system, probably automated, confirming my termination for gross misconduct and warning that any attempt to return would result in trespassing charges. I opened it, reading the cold, formal language that twisted the facts, saying I'd assaulted a customer with the spill and disrupted service. No mention of Mr. Harlan's slap or insults, just a clean cover-up that made me look like the villain. This can't be real, I whispered to myself, scrolling through it, the isolation deepening as I realized they were already burying the incident, protecting their rep while I sat here ruined. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky, and started walking toward my apartment a few blocks away, the city lights blurring through my tears. Every step reminding me of the powerlessness that had built up over months, the overlooked shifts, the extra work without thanks, now ending in this total loss. A group of well-dressed people passed me, laughing about their dinner plans, and one woman wrinkled her nose at my stained uniform, muttering to her friend, "Look at her. Probably got fired for being sloppy." I caught the words, my face heating up, the public judgment adding another layer of humiliation, making me wish I could disappear into the crowd. When I got to my building, I fumbled with my keys, pushing into the tiny studio that smelled like takeout from last night, the rent due in a week with no way to pay it now. I collapsed onto the worn couch, curling up as sobs racked my body again, the full rock bottom hitting me. No job, no savings, no support network here. Just me alone with the bruises and the echo of his contempt, feeling like I'd lost not just a paycheck, but my dignity, my independence, everything I'd fought for. My neighbor, Mrs. Lopez from next door, must have heard me through the thin walls because she knocked softly. "Aisha, you okay in there? Sounds like you're crying." I didn't answer at first, wiping my face, but she persisted. "Come on, open up. I saw you come in looking rough." I dragged myself to the door, cracking it open, and she took one look at my bruised cheek and teared-up eyes. "Oh, honey, what happened? Did someone hurt you?" she asked, her voice full of concern as she stepped in without waiting, guiding me back to the couch. "It's my boss," I choked out, the words tumbling as I told her about the slap, the firing, the dragging, leaving out my dad's part for now. He called me all kinds of names, said I don't belong because I'm black, and now I'm out on the street with nothing. I worked so hard, Mrs. Lopez doubles, no complaints, and it's all gone. She hugged me then, rubbing my back. "That's awful, mija. People like that think they can get away with anything. You need to report him. That's assault, discrimination." "I know," I said, pulling back, the tears slowing a bit with her there. "But who'll believe me? He's got the owner on his side. And they already sent an email making it look like my fault. I'm scared, no job means no rent, and I can't go back to my family like this." She nodded, her face serious. "You're not alone, okay? Stay strong, we'll figure something out. Maybe unemployment, or I can ask around for openings." Her words helped a little, but as she left promising to check on me tomorrow, the isolation crept back in, the apartment feeling emptier, the humiliation of being cast out like that making me curl up again, wondering how I'd climb out of this hole. I'd hidden my privileged background to prove myself, but now, jobless and marked, the fear of financial ruin mixed with the emotional wreckage, leaving me at my lowest, stripped of everything that made me feel secure. I sat there on the couch after Mrs. Lopez left, staring at the blank wall of my tiny apartment, the tears drying on my cheeks as the sting from the bruise started to numb a little. But the anger inside me kept building like a slow fire. My phone was still in my hand from checking that termination email, and I scrolled back through my texts, seeing Maria's message again about not contacting me, which just fueled the resolve bubbling up. I wasn't going to let Mr. Harlan get away with slapping me, firing me, and dragging me out like garbage, especially not with all the racial crap he'd thrown in. I wiped the last of the tears away with the back of my hand, taking a deep breath, and decided right then that crying wasn't going to fix this. I had to strike back, but smart, not impulsive, staying under the radar so he wouldn't see it coming. I stood up, pacing the small room, my stained uniform feeling heavy on me as I thought about how I'd played small all night, not fighting back in the moment because I knew it would only make things worse with his owner, connections protecting him. But now, alone here, I made the clear choice to play weak publicly, act like I was beaten down and moving on, while quietly starting to gather whatever I could to build a case against him, evidence of the assault, the discrimination, anything to turn the tables. I grabbed a fresh shirt from my drawer, changing out of the uniform quickly, and as I did, I caught my reflection in the mirror, the bruise on my cheek turning purple, my split lips scabbed over, and that sight hardened something in me, like a switch flipping from victim to fighter. My phone buzzed again, this time from my dad, Governor Elias Thompson, the man I'd kept at arm's length to prove my independence. But now I needed him without fully admitting defeat. The text read, "Saw everything. Stay calm. Document it all, photos, notes. I'm handling legal discreetly. Don't react yet." I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of relief and that old stubbornness. But I knew he was right. As a key supporter with resources I couldn't touch on my own, he could guide this without me blowing my cover. "Okay, Dad," I texted back quietly. "Send me what to do next. I'll play along like nothing's happening." He replied almost immediately, "Good. Start with photos of your injuries, cheek, arm marks. Time-stamp them. Note times," what he said. "I'll get footage from the restaurant cams through channels. Act normal, apply for jobs if needed, but build the file." I nodded to myself, feeling the awakening take hold, like I was done being powerless and ready to shift this quietly. I opened my camera app, snapping close-ups of the bruise on my face, the red fingerprints on my arm from where he'd grabbed me, making sure the timestamps showed the fresh injuries, and I saved them in a new folder labeled Evidence, the first crucial clue in my hands now. I sat back down, pulling out a notebook from my bag, the one I'd used for shift notes at work, and started jotting down everything. The spill from the customer's bump, Mr. Harlan's slap and the exact racial slurs he'd yelled, the firing, the dragging out the door, even the witnesses like the woman who'd tried to film and the businessmen at the table. It felt good, organizing it all, turning the chaos into something I could use. And as I wrote, I thought about how I'd stay composed tomorrow. Maybe even post a vague update on social media about tough day at work without naming names, just to play weak and see if it drew out any reactions. Dad texted again. "Also, check your email for a contact, my aide, Lena. She's discreet, can help with statements if coworkers reach out." "Lena," I muttered to myself, opening my email and seeing the forward from Dad with her info, introducing her as a supporting character in this mess, someone who could quietly coordinate without it tracing back to him publicly. I messaged her right away. "Hi, this is Aisha Thompson. My dad connected us. Need advice on documenting an incident at work." She responded fast. "Got it. Send me the photos and notes. We'll build from there. Stay off radar, no direct confrontations." Talking to her, even over text, made the plan feel real, like I was gathering my tools without alerting Mr. Harlan, who probably thought he'd crushed me for good. I paced again, the apartment feeling less like a cage now and more like a base. As I decided to hit up a couple job sites online, applying for Waitress gigs to keep up the act of moving on, all while my mind raced with next steps. "He thinks I'm done," I said out loud to the empty room, a small smile creeping on despite the pain. "But I'm just getting started, playing broke and broken while I line up the hits." Dad's next text came in, "Smart. Also, that woman who filmed, if she posts it publicly, we may be able to identify and contact her. Keep an eye out." That planted another seed, the idea of more clues out there, and I felt the balance starting to tip inside me, from rock bottom to ready. Lena followed up. "Photos received. Solid start. Add any texts from coworkers? That termination email, too, forward it." I did, attaching Maria's warning message and the HR email, feeling like each piece was a brick in the wall I was building against him. "What about the restaurant's history?" I asked her. "Any past complaints?" She replied, "We'll dig quietly. For now, rest. Act normal tomorrow." I set the phone down, finally feeling the exhaustion hit, but it was mixed with this new energy. The decision locked in to strike back without him knowing. I made a quick sandwich from the fridge, eating it slowly at the tiny table. My notebook open as I added more details, the way Jake had shut down the filming woman, the security guard backing Mr. Harlan, all of it painting the cover-up culture. They think they can bury this, I whispered, but with Dad and Lena in my corner, I knew I could uncover more, staying hidden until the right moment. The bruise ached as I touched it, but now it was fuel, not just pain, reminding me why I had to do this, right? As I lay down on the couch to sleep, phone charging next to me, I texted Dad one last time. "Thanks for watching out. I'll handle my end." His reply, "Proud of you. We got this." That sealed the awakening for me. No more victim mode, just quiet strategy, planting those first clues like the photos, ready to build the case that would bring Mr. Harlan down without him seeing the storm coming. I woke up the next morning with my cheek still sore from the slap, the bruise a dark purple now. But I pushed through the ache and grabbed my phone first thing, checking for any updates from Lena or my dad while I made coffee in my tiny kitchen. The apartment felt a little less suffocating after last night's decision, like I had a plan instead of just pain, and as I sipped the hot brew, Lena's text came in. "Morning, Aisha. Got your notes and photos. Let's start digging. Send me the restaurant's name and Harlan's full name if you have it. I'll pull employee records quietly through public channels." I texted back right away, giving her Labelle V and Victor Harlan, remembering how he'd signed my paychecks with that pompous flourish, and I added, "He's the owner's brother-in-law, so watch for cover-ups." She replied quickly, "Noted. I'll check for past complaints too, labor boards, reviews, anything. You focus on reaching out to coworkers subtly, maybe through personal emails if you have them. No direct mentions of the incident yet." I nodded to myself, setting my mug down and pulling up my old work group chat on my phone. But it was silent since Maria's warning text, everyone probably scared silent by Harlan's threats. I decided to email Maria from my personal account instead, keeping it light. "Hey, just checking in after last night. Missed the team already. How's everything?" She didn't respond right away, but I didn't push. Knowing patience was key while I gathered more. I headed out to a nearby coffee shop with free Wi-Fi, my laptop in my bag. Figuring a public spot would keep me from feeling too isolated at home with no job to go to. As I settled in with another coffee, my dad called, his voice calm but firm over the line. "Aisha, Lena's on it." I used some connections to access the restaurant's security footage discreetly through a state audit channel that won't raise flags. "Sending you a link now. It's from last night, shows the whole thing. The spill, the slap, him dragging you." I opened the email on my laptop, clicking the secure link, and there it was. Clear video of the customer bumping me, the wine spilling, Harlan storming over and slapping me hard, his mouth moving with those racial slurs even if the audio was muted in spots. "Dad, this is gold," I said quietly into the phone, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. You can see his face, the way he grabbed my arm later too. "And look, there's that woman filming in the background. Her phone's out." He chuckled a little, the sound reassuring. "Exactly. We're pulling audio enhancements too. Also, Lena found employee complaints online, anonymous reviews on sites like Glassdoor mentioning Harlan's discrimination, favoring white staff for shifts, even skimming tips. One from last year says he fired someone for not fitting the image, code for race stuff. I jotted that down in my notebook, adding it to my evidence folder, feeling the balance start to shift as I imagined Harlan still strutting around the restaurant, thinking he'd won. Maria finally emailed back as I scanned the footage again. "Aisha, can't talk much. Harlan's on a rampage today, watching everyone. But yeah, things are tense. He bragged to the staff this morning about cleaning house and how no one's untouchable." I read it twice, my heart picking up. That was him being overconfident, believing he was safe with his brother-in-law owning the place. "Thanks for the heads up," I replied carefully. "If you hear anything else, like about tips or favoritism, let me know. Just venting." She sent back, "Will do. Actually, yeah, he's been shorting the pooled tips, giving extras to his favorites. I have emails from the system showing discrepancies. Want me to forward?" "Yes, please," I typed fast, and moments later her forwards came through. Restaurant email chains where Harlan adjusted tip distributions. Skimping on staff like me and Maria while boosting others, clear embezzlement if you looked close. I saved them to my folder, forwarding copies to Lena right away. Got coworker intel, I texted her. Tip embezzling emails ties into discrimination? Lena responded, perfect. This builds the pattern. I'm cross-checking with state labor filings. Looks like unreported complaints from 2 years ago about similar firings. Harlan's got a history. 3 ex-employees sued quietly but settled out of court. I leaned back in my chair, watching people come and go in the coffee shop, feeling less like the broken girl from last night and more like someone piecing together a puzzle that could take him down. Dad texted an update. My team traced that filming woman through social media. She posted a vague rant about witnessed assault at fancy restaurant without naming names, but her profile links to the video she saved, reaching out anonymously to get her statement. I smiled for the first time since the incident, replying, awesome. Keep it quiet, don't want Harlan spooked. He sent back, he's oblivious. From what I hear through channels, he's boasting to the owner about handling problem staff, me planning a staff meeting to boost morale by warning against complaints. That overconfidence from him made my blood boil, but it also gave me an edge. He thought I'd slink away broke and silent, not knowing I was assembling this arsenal. The security video, the tip emails, the anonymous complaints, even potential witness statements. Lena called then, her voice professional over the speaker. Aisha, good work on those emails. I've compiled a preliminary file. Shows Harlan's pattern of discriminatory firings and financial tweaks. One more thing, public records show he's got a pending small claims from an ex-employee over unpaid wages. We can use that to pressure without going public yet. Sounds solid, I said, keeping my voice low as a barista walked by. What next? Should I talk to more coworkers? She paused, thinking. Only if they're willing, don't push. Focus on documenting your own stuff, like medical notes for the bruise. Get a photo from today showing it worsening. Timestamp it. I agreed, hanging up and snapping another pic in the bathroom mirror. The bruise looking even uglier, which only strengthened my resolve as I added it to the folder. Back at my table, I searched online myself for more on La Belle Vie, finding Yelp reviews buried deep that echoed the discrimination. Customers noting unfair treatment of minority staff. One even mentioning Harlan by name in a 1-star rant from months ago. I screenshotted them, sending to Lena. More ammo, public reviews. She texted, integrating now. This tips the scale. His overconfidence is his weakness. He's not even covering tracks well. As the afternoon wore on, I walked back to my apartment. Stopping at a clinic for a quick walk-in to get the bruise documented officially, the nurse raising an eyebrow but noting it as assault-related injury in a report I paid for out of pocket. Who did this? She asked gently. My ex-boss, I said simply. I'm handling it legally. She nodded, handing me the paper. Good luck. Stay safe. I added the report to my growing file, feeling the shift more clearly now, like the power was moving from Harlan's side to mine without him suspecting a thing. Maria texted again later. Heard him on the phone with the owner, laughing about how you won't dare sue because you're broke and alone. Staff's whispering, though. Some are pissed about the tips. I replied, thanks, keep your head down. That confirmed it. He was still boasting, clueless about the storm building, while I quietly assembled witness hints, financial proof, and video that could bury him. Dad called as I got home. Lena's got the woman's contact. She's willing to share her video anonymously. Full audio of the slurs. Yes, I said, pumping my fist. This changes everything. He agreed. Stay patient. We're shifting the balance, Aisha. He thinks he's won, but not for long. I spent the evening organizing it all on my laptop, the evidence stacking up like a house of cards ready to topple on him. My earlier humiliation turning into quiet strength as I pictured his face when it all came out. I sat at my laptop in the coffee shop the next afternoon, the same one I'd used yesterday, sipping a cheap black coffee while I stared at the screen, my mind focused on that first small hit I could land on Victor Harlan without him knowing it came from me. The bruise on my cheek was fading a bit, but every time I touched it, the memory of his slap and those racial slurs fired me up again, turning the humiliation into something I could use. I had all this evidence now, the security footage, the tip emails, the complaints, but I wasn't ready to drop the bomb yet. I needed to test the waters, shake his confidence a little, make him sweat without seeing my face. Lena had texted me earlier that morning with a plan. Tip off a local news site anonymously. Keep it vague, no names at first. Just hint at discrimination and assault at La Belle Vie. See how it ripples. I liked that. It was low risk. Something I could do from here without stepping foot near the restaurant. I pulled up an anonymous email service on my browser, creating a throwaway account, and started typing the tip. Witnessed a manager at La Belle Vie slap a black waitress last night. After a minor spill, he's got a history of racial comments and favoring certain staff. Check employee reviews, might be more to it. I attached a blurred screenshot from the security footage, just enough to show the slap without clear faces, and hit send to a small online news outlet that covered local scandals. As the email went through, I leaned back in my chair, watching people order their lattes and pastries, feeling a rush of power for the first time since this started. Like I wasn't just the powerless girl he'd thrown out anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Harlan's in a good mood today, joking about how quiet things are without troublemakers. But some staff are whispering about the tips he didn't notice yet. I smiled to myself, replying carefully, "Good to know, stay safe." That was my inner circle starting to crack his, even if he didn't see it. A couple hours later, while I scrolled job listings to keep up the act of moving on, Lena called. "The tip landed," she said, her voice excited but low. "They posted a short article online. Allegations of assault and discrimination at upscale downtown restaurant. No names, but it describes the incident and links to those Glassdoor reviews. It's getting shares already." I opened the link she sent, reading the piece quickly. It questioned La Belle Vie's practices, mentioned anonymous tips about a hostile work environment and racial bias, and called for anyone with info to come forward. My heart pounded as I imagined Harlan seeing it, his smug face dropping just a notch. I decided to watch from afar, so I texted Dad, "Article's up. Can your team monitor reactions?" He replied fast, "On it." Harlan's brother-in-law, the owner, just got tagged in comments. Staff might see it too. I closed my laptop and walked back to my apartment. The city streets feeling different now, like I had a secret edge over the man who'd humiliated me in front of everyone. The racial injustice he'd thrown at me, calling me names like that, it wasn't just personal anymore. It was something I could expose bit by bit, planting distrust where he least expected. By evening, Maria messaged again, her text popping up as I made dinner from whatever was left in my fridge, a can of soup and some bread. "Oh man, Aisha, that article's blowing up in the group chat." Harlan saw it during the staff meeting. He went red, yelling about fake news and how we'd all lose our jobs if anyone talked to reporters. People are side-eyeing him now, especially the ones he's shorted on tips. I could picture it, him lashing out defensively at the team, his voice booming like it did when he slapped me, but now with a crack in that confidence. The overconfidence that made him think he was untouchable because of his family ties. "Tell me more," I texted back, sitting at my table with the soup cooling in front of me. She replied, "He accused us of leaking stuff. Said the restaurant's under attack from jealous ex-employees. Jake looked nervous and a couple servers whispered about quitting. He's paranoid now, checking phones at the end of shifts." That was exactly what I wanted. The first counterblow landing without me saying a word publicly, shaking his sense of security and planting those seeds of distrust among the staff who'd seen his favoritism firsthand. Dad called then as I finished eating, his voice steady over the line. "Good move with the tip, Aisha. The article's got over 1,000 views already. Comments are piling up, some from past customers saying they've noticed rude treatment. Harlan's owner brother called him. I have a contact who overheard. They're worried about bad press affecting business." I stood up, pacing my small living room, feeling the emotional betrayal from the job turn into satisfaction. "He's cracking, Dad, without knowing it's me." "Exactly," he said. "Keep it anonymous for now. Lena's fielding a couple witness tips from the article. One might be that woman who filmed. This is testing the waters perfectly. His confidence is slipping, but he still thinks it's random." I hung up, looking out my window at the darkening sky. The isolation from last night fading as I realized this small strike was working, making him defensive and turning his own team against him subtly. Lena texted an update later that night as I lay on the couch. Scrolling through the article's comments on my phone, Harlan posted a denial on the restaurant's social media, baseless rumors. We're a family here. But it's backfiring. More people are sharing stories. Staff distrust is growing, he lashed out at a meeting, blaming disloyal workers. I replied, "Perfect. No full hand yet, just enough to rattle him." She sent back, "Agreed. Watch for his next move. This plants the seeds for bigger things. I set my phone down, the bruise on my arm from his grab still tender as I shifted, but now it reminded me of the leverage I was building, not just the pain. Harlan was out there, probably fuming in his office, his overconfidence cracking under the pressure of that little article, while I stayed hidden, watching it all unfold from afar. The racial slurs he'd used, the way he'd made me feel like I didn't belong, it fueled me to keep going. Knowing this was just the start of making him pay without him seeing the real storm coming. Maria's final text came in before I slept. He's losing it, yelled at Jake for no reason, saying everyone's replaceable. Rumors of an investigation are spreading. People are talking about unionizing or something. I smiled in the dark, replying, "Hang in there." This first blow had hit its mark, shaking him enough to lash out, planting that distrust in his inner circle and building my anticipation for what came next, all while I played weak and waited. I woke up early the morning after that article hit, my phone already buzzing with notifications as I rolled over on the couch, the bruise on my cheek down to a yellowish tint but still reminding me of Victor Harlan's slap. Every time I looked in the mirror, I grabbed my coffee and checked the news site's page first. The piece had blown up overnight, with hundreds of comments now. Some from anonymous posters sharing similar stories about bad bosses at fancy places, and a few tagging La Belle Vie directly, demanding answers. I felt a spark of hope as I texted Lena. "It's working. People are talking." She replied right away, "Yes, but stay low." Harlan's reacting. My contact says he's furious, calling an emergency staff meeting this morning. I paced my apartment, munching on toast, thinking about how that small tip-off had rattled him. But I knew he wouldn't go down easy with his brother-in-law owning the place and covering for him. Maria messaged me then, her text popping up. "Aisha, things are crazy here." Harlan just stormed in, waving his phone around about that article, saying it's all lies from bitter ex-employees like that clumsy girl who got fired. He's telling everyone not to talk to reporters or they'll be out too. I sat down at my table, reading it twice, feeling the tension build as I replied, "Be careful." "What else is he doing?" She typed back fast. "He's on social media now, posting from the restaurant account, defending himself, but it's nasty. Check it." I opened the La Belle Vie social page on my laptop, and there it was, a long post from Harlan, his profile pic showing that smug grin, where he wrote about fake news spreading by disgruntled former staff with troubled pasts, like the one who caused chaos and got let go for good reason. He didn't name me, but the comments filled in the blanks, with some bots or maybe his friends piling on about unreliable workers bringing drama. My stomach twisted as I scrolled, seeing him hint at my history of mistakes and even linking to a fake review site where someone, probably him, had posted anonymously about a black waitress who stole tips and argued with customers. "That's a lie," I muttered to myself, my hands shaking as I screenshot it all, forwarding to Lena. "He's spreading rumors to discredit me." Lena called me a minute later, her voice urgent over the speaker as I put the phone on the table. "Aisha, I saw the posts. This is his counterattack, classic deflection. He's trying to paint you as the problem to scare off witnesses." I leaned forward, rubbing my arm where the marks from his grab had faded, but the memory hadn't. "What do I do? It feels like everything's backfiring." She paused, thinking. "Document it, but don't respond publicly. We're still building." My source says he's deleting internal records too, shift logs, complaint files from the system to cover the incident. I stood up, walking to the window, looking out at the street where people hurried by, feeling that isolation creep back in like it did the night he threw me out. Dad texted then, "Harlan's escalating." His brother-in-law approved wiping the security backups, but we already have our copy. Hang tight. I texted back, "He's ruining my rep online. People might believe it." As I refreshed the social page, more comments appeared, some calling me out by name now. Aisha Thompson, the thief and troublemaker. And I realized he'd dug up my old profile somehow, twisting a post from months ago about a tough shift into proof of my attitude problems. The emotional betrayal hit hard again. Like the workplace I'd given so much to was now poisoning my future, making job hunting even tougher with this crap floating around. Maria called me whisper quiet, her voice shaky as I answered. "Aisha, I can't talk long. He's watching us like hawks. He pulled me and Jake into his office, threatening to fire anyone who sides with liars. We said if we talk to you or reporters, we're done. No references, nothing." I gripped the phone tighter, my heart pounding. "Maria, don't risk it. Just tell me what's happening." She breathed heavy. He's destroying stuff, shredding papers, deleting emails about tips. Told us the article's from you, and he's going to handle it by suing for defamation if it doesn't stop. Everyone's scared. 2 servers called out sick today. I hung up, sinking onto the couch, the powerlessness surging back as I thought about how my first strike had provoked this, making it seem like I was losing ground fast. I opened a job site, applying for a couple spots, but who would hire me now with those rumors online? Lena messaged, "He's intensifying sabotage." Posted more, claiming you had a troubled past with previous jobs. Fake, but it's sticking in comments. I read the new post where he implied I was unstable and prone to accidents on purpose, even hinting at drug issues, which was a total lie that cut deep, playing on racial stereotypes to make me look even worse. Dad called as I stared at the screen, his tone serious. "Aisha, this is his strike back, trying to isolate you more, destroy any support. But we've got the real evidence safe." I wiped a tear that slipped out, my voice cracking. "It feels like I'm back at rock bottom, Dad. People are believing him. What if no one comes forward now?" He sighed. "It's a reversal, but temporary. Lena's tracking the deletions. It's illegal tampering. Use this to fuel us." I nodded even though he couldn't see, standing up to make tea, my hands busy to keep from shaking. Maria texted again. "He just fired Jake for suspicious behavior. Said he was leaking info. Everyone's on edge, not talking." That hit me like a punch, Jake losing his job because of this mess, intensifying the pressure as Harlan threatened more, making my efforts look like they were failing hard. I forwarded it to Lena. "He's firing people now, sabotage ramping up." She replied, "Noted. This backfires on him. Wrongful terminations add to our case. But yeah, it looks bad for you short-term, renewed isolation." As the day dragged on, I avoided social media, but notifications kept coming from friends asking if the rumors were true, their messages full of doubt that stung like fresh slaps. "Aisha, saw some posts about you at that restaurant. What happened?" one texted, and I replied vaguely, "Lies, but handling it." The isolation wrapped tighter, like Harlan was winning again, destroying evidence and my reputation, leaving me on the brink of defeat with no one left to trust at the restaurant. Lena called in the evening as I sat eating leftovers alone. Update: he's contacted a lawyer, threatening suits against anonymous tipsters. Then he posted your full name now, linking to a fabricated review site with stories about your theft. It's nasty but overreach. We can trace it back to him. I put my fork down, appetite gone. "This is too much. Feels like I'm losing." She said firmly, "It's a reversal to heightened tension, Aisha. He's desperate. We have backups of what he's deleting. Stay strong. This makes our climax stronger." I hung up, curling up on the couch, the pressure building as I thought about applying for unemployment tomorrow, wondering if even that would get blocked with his influence. Dad texted, "He's striking hard but exposing weaknesses." Maria slipped us more emails before he locked systems. I replied, "Thanks, but it hurts. Feels like failure again." As night fell, the renewed sabotage left me questioning everything, appearing defeated once more. But deep down, I held on to the evidence we had, waiting for the right moment to turn it around. I stared at my laptop screen in the coffee shop the next day. The rumors Victor Harlan had spread about me still stinging like fresh wounds, but I pushed through them, focusing on the file Lena had just emailed me, a compiled dossier thick with everything we'd gathered. From the security footage of the slap to the embezzled tip emails and the witness statements we'd quietly collected. My cheek bruise had mostly faded but still visible under certain light, and the arm marks and the emotional scars from his racial insults kept me fired up, reminding me why I had to end this now, not let his sabotage win. I texted Dad, "It's time, everything's solid, let's set up the meeting." He replied fast, "Agreed. The lawyers will coordinate with legal and PR teams. Mandatory pre-shift meeting at the restaurant tomorrow morning. Full staff and owners there due to the PR crisis. Stay hidden until then." I leaned back in my booth, sipping my coffee, my heart racing as I reviewed the evidence one last time. The video showing Harlan's hand cracking across my face, his mouth spewing those slurs, while the clear audio came from the woman's clip and Dad's phone recording, with the CCTV providing the primary visuals. Lena called me then, her voice steady over the phone. "Aisha, we've got affidavits from Maria and 2 other co-workers now. They came forward after Jake's firing, detailing the tip skimming and discrimination, plus the woman's video from that night, full of his racial comments. And public records on his prior claims and cases that existed and were later resolved. It's airtight. Good, I said, keeping my voice low as a barista walked by with a tray. What about the deletions he did? Can we prove tampering? She paused, typing something. Yes, our backups show what he wiped, like those shift logs hiding favoritism. Lawyers have sent a preservation notice and request to preserve evidence. Investigator on standby, counsel preparing filings and subpoenas. I hung up, forwarding the full file to Dad's secure server, feeling the shift inside me from that powerless girl on the sidewalk to someone holding all the cards ready to flip the table on Harlan without him suspecting until it was too late. Maria texted me quietly. Heard about a big meeting tomorrow. Harlan thinks it's to rally the staff against haters. He's still bragging, saying no one's touching him. I replied, perfect. See you there. Trust me. She sent back, okay, but nervous. He's got the owner backing every word. Dad called as I packed up my laptop, heading back to my apartment through the busy streets. The city noise fading as I focused on his words. Aisha, everything's set. Local news tipped off anonymously. They'll be outside the restaurant due to an anonymous heads up. Lawyers ready for the embezzlement angle. Discrimination charges. You'll walk in last after I reveal myself presenting the file. No improvisation, just facts. Got it, Dad, I said, unlocking my door and stepping into the quiet space, dropping my bag on the couch. I've got my statement ready. Times, quotes, the pain he caused. This ends him. He sighed, proud but cautious. It does. But remember, this is about justice, not revenge. We've got the video, emails, affidavits, medical report, plus his online posts admitting to firing people, which backfires as retaliation. I sat down, pulling up the dossier on my screen, adding my own notes on the racial injustice. How his words like stupid black bitch and go back to the ghetto weren't just insults but part of a pattern that hurt everyone like me there. Lena messaged, final piece. The small claims pending against him just got a new civil complaint filed. Ex-employee saw the article and amended filing. I typed back, amazing. Full control now, Harlan's oblivious, prepping his speech like he's the victim. As evening fell, I paced my apartment, the isolation from before turning into focused energy, knowing tomorrow's public meeting would have the staff, owners, media, hovering, and lawyers on standby, all set up through Dad's connections to legal and PR teams, without a trace back to me yet. Dad texted, media's confirmed, discreet cameras outside. Your entrance will seal it. I replied, ready, he's going down. Maria called whisper quiet later as I made a simple dinner. Aisha, he's hyped for tomorrow, telling us it'll crush the rumors. But staff's buzzing. Some saw his deletions, whispering about jumping ship. I nodded to myself. Hang in there, one more day. Evidence is locked, he'll face it all. She hung up and I ate slowly, reviewing my statement aloud to the empty room. On that night, Victor Harlan slapped me, called me racial names, fired me unjustly, and dragged me out. All on video, but it's bigger. Embezzlement, discrimination, tampering. Time for truth. It felt solid, the climax building in my mind. Harlan still thinking he held power with his brother-in-law, but me with the full hand now, arranging this confrontation to expose him before everyone who mattered. Lena's last update came as I got ready for bed. All set, affidavits notarized, footage authenticated. You're walking in with the governor's backing, but he'll reveal first. Suspense is key. I set my alarm, lying down with a mix of nerves and resolve, the pain keywords from the start. Humiliation, racial injustice, powerlessness, emotional betrayal, isolation, now fuel for this setup. Holding me in anticipation as I pictured Harlan's face tomorrow, the room packed, the truth ready to drop like a hammer. I stood outside La Belle Vie the next morning, my heart pounding as I watched through the window. The pre-shift meeting already underway with the staff crammed into the dining room, tables pushed aside for rows of chairs. Harlan at the front with his brother-in-law, the owner, beside him, both looking smug like they owned the world. Media vans were parked discreetly across the street thanks to the anonymous heads up. Cameras ready but not storming in yet, and I waited for Dad's signal. My phone buzzing with Lena's final text, go time evidence delivered to lawyers inside. I took a deep breath, smoothing my simple dress. The faded bruise on my cheek hidden under makeup, but the fire from his slap still burning inside. Me ready to walk in and watch him crumble. The door creaked as Dad entered first, blending in at the back until Harlan started his speech. booming about loyalty and crushing false rumors from bitter ex-employees. His voice dripping with that same contempt he'd shown me. "We've handled worse," he said, crossing his arms. "That girl who caused all this? She's nothing, troubled past, lies everywhere. But we're a family here, and no one's taking us down." Murmurs rippled through the staff, Maria looking tense in the front row, a few others shifting uncomfortably after the firings and threats, and that's when Dad stood up, his voice cutting through like a knife. "Actually, Victor Harlan, that's not true at all." The room went silent as Dad revealed himself, stepping forward with the lawyers flanking him, one holding a folder thick with our dossier. "I'm Governor Elias Thompson, and that girl is my daughter, Aisha Thompson," he said calmly. His eyes locked on Harlan, who turned pale, his mouth opening but no words coming out. The owner frowned, leaning in to whisper something. But Dad continued, "We've got evidence of your assault on her, the racial discrimination, the embezzlement of tips, and your attempts to cover it up by deleting records and spreading false rumors online." Gasps echoed around the room, staff pulling out phones to record as the lawyers handed out copies of the affidavits. The video playing on a laptop they set up, showing the slap in clear visuals from the CCTV, with audio from the woman's clip and Dad's phone capturing every slur, "Stupid black bitch." "Go back to the ghetto," ringing out loud and damning. Harlan stammered, his face red now. "This is a setup." "She's lying. That video's fake." But the lawyer cut him off, projecting the tip emails on the wall, showing how he'd skimmed money and favored certain staff, tying it to the discrimination complaints from past employees, including the new civil complaint from the one who'd amended her filing after seeing the article. "These are authenticated," the lawyer said firmly. "And your deletions? We have backups, plus the preservation notice you ignored. That's tampering. A crime." The owner stood up, looking shocked. "Victor, what is this?" But Harlan shoved back. "It's her fault. She spilled the drink. I was just—" Maria spoke up then, her voice shaking but strong. "No, mister. Harlan, we all saw it, and those tips you stole, we have the emails." More staff nodded, the distrust we'd planted exploding now, one saying, "You fired Jake for nothing, threatened us all." I walked in then, the door swinging open as heads turned, my eyes fixed on Harlan, who froze like he'd seen a ghost. "You thought you could slap me, fire me, drag me out, and ruin my name because I'm black and you felt powerful," I said. My voice steady despite the nerves, stepping to the front as the lawyers nodded for me to speak. "But here's the truth. You assaulted me on video, discriminated against me and others, embezzled from your own staff, and tried to cover it with lies online, calling me a thief and unstable. I have the medical report on my injuries, the affidavits from co-workers, the Yelp reviews showing your pattern, even the pending claims against you that just got stronger." Harlan lunged forward a bit. "You little—" But security, the ones he'd used to back his threats, stepped in, called by the lawyers, holding him back as the media burst through the door now, cameras flashing. The owner turned to Harlan, his face hard. "Victor, you're fired immediately. We'll cooperate with any investigation." Harlan shouted, "You can't do this, I'm family." But the lawyer handed him papers. "Actually, we can. Charges are being filed for assault, discrimination, embezzlement, and defamation. The state labor board's investigator is outside, ready to review everything." Harlan's shoulders slumped, his reputation shattering as staff whispered and media recorded. One reporter yelling, "Governor, is this personal?" Dad shook his head. "It's about justice, for my daughter and everyone he's hurt." The story went viral right there, phones buzzing with shares. Harlan's online posts backfiring as evidence of his guilt, lawsuits piling up from ex-employees inspired by the reveal. They arrested Harlan on the spot for the assault, cuffs clicking as he was led out, his eyes meeting mine one last time, full of shock and defeat. No more overconfidence, just a broken man paying for his unchecked prejudice and crimes. I stood there, reclaiming my dignity as staff approached with apologies, Maria hugging me tight. "You did it, Aisha. We're free now." The owner offered compensation, a formal apology letter, and even a settlement to make up for the lost wages and pain, but I waved it off for now, focusing on the win. Dad pulled me into a proud embrace outside, away from the cameras, whispering, "You were strong through it all." As we walked away, the restaurant behind us buzzing with change, I felt renewed pride washing over me, starting a new life without that weight. Knowing power isn't in a title, it's in standing up for what's right. When faced with injustice, the most powerful thing isn't to yell, but to remain calm. Acknowledge the facts, seek allies, and demand that the system do the right thing. Do you have a rule for protecting yourself when treated unfairly? Comment one sentence. I'll compile it into a checklist for everyone. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me through this painful journey. On your screen now are 2 more real-life stories I think you'll love. Please subscribe so we never lose each other. See you in the next story, my dear friend. With all my love and respect.